The story of the National Biscuit Building in which you now stand starts around 1750, when the capital of New York State was Poughkeepsie. But further north, ambition was percolating in the oldest continual chartered city in the United States. That's right, Albany, New York. Marked by a busy port and mercantile mindset, Albany was a bustling trade centre, fiercely provincial and about to experience what was nothing less than a revolution. The Industrial Revolution. In 1797, Albany got her crown as the capital of New York State. And in 1825, a single event secured Albany's place as the major port for commerce between the eastern and western United States. The event? The completion of a man-made 360-mile waterway carved into the earth called the Erie Canal. Yep. Sitting at the canal's end, Albany became the gateway of the mighty Hudson River. When harnessed to boats powered by Fulton's steam engine, the newly minted capital became the transportation hub for western lumber and farm goods. The expanded port provided moorings for up to 1,000 canal boats and 50 steamboats, with an easternmost terminus at the base of Colony Street, just east of what would eventually become the National Biscuit Company, and later Capitol Repertory Theatre. But I'm getting ahead of myself. No, where was I? Oh, yes. It was 1866 when successful bakers Belcher and Larrabee purchased the old St. Joseph's Church on the corner of North Pearl and Livingston Streets. I say the old St. Joseph's because the parishioners had moved into the new St. Joseph's just up the hill on Tenbrook Street. The bakery was created in the old church. Mr. Belcher passed on in 1886 when the bakery took the name E.J. Larrabee's Aerated Bread Company. Larrabee bought property to the east and north of the church, including 75 Livingston Street, which is home to Albany Distilling today. The thriving baking complex was made up of 3 5-story buildings, stables, and a fleet of horse-drawn delivery wagons. The bakery employed more than 300 people and made more than 300 types of biscuits with the best and most modern machinery that money could buy. Larrabee and his new partners were so successful, they opened an office in New York City, where they mingled with giants of industry who manufactured baked goods for the entire country. Larrabee's bakers even showed their biscuits and cakes at the Paris exhibition of 1878.
November 1887. The Albany Morning Express reports a fire has destroyed all of the buildings of the Larrabee Bakery and almost destroyed 75 Livingston Street and the stables behind the Pearl Street structures. It has been rumored among businessmen of this city that the firm of E.J. Larrabee & Company is about to remove its entire plant from Albany to New York City, and that negotiations to that end are now pending. Mr. Larrabee said to an Express reporter yesterday that he was not quite ready to make a statement for publication, but it would come shortly. He practically admitted that the firm had the removal to New York under consideration, but he added that even in the event of removal, there may continue to be a branch establishment in the city of Albany.
To Larrabee's credit, the bakery operations were moved to Cambridge, New York, while a new building was built on the Albany site. But changes were a-comin', and before the new bakery was completed, Larrabee merged his operations with 8 other bakeries, forming the New York Biscuit Company, with headquarters in Chicago. By 1898, Albany's new 2-story brick and timber-framed factory reopened, pretty much unadorned, but with a distinctive awning across the entirety of its 8-bay Pearl Street facade. Since the fire, there had been more mergers, which would give the Albany building a new sign across its brick marquee, the National Biscuit Company. Many of the most popular products of the brand were created in the building, most notably the You Need a Biscuit and the Saltine Cracker. With products that would become household staples, the National Biscuit Company, with its sphere and antenna logo, would soon earn its now familiar nickname, Nabisco. The Nabisco factory joined the mighty industrial prosperity of the capital region in the 19th and early 20th century. Troy's ironworks and collar makers, Coe's textile mills, Lansingburg's brush and oilcloth factories, breweries, paint makers, manufacturers of railway cars, Ford motor parts, and bread and biscuits all were part of the great industrial era that built America. And Nabisco was everywhere. Well, all good things must end, as the saying goes. Labor difficulties, the Great Depression, the Great War, ups and downs in the economy all took their toll on the manufacturing prosperity of the region. But throughout, the Nabisco factory on Pearl and Livingston chugged along. But eventually it was progress that caught up with the bakery. By 1959, automated conveyor belts needed more space for mass production, and well, there just wasn't enough room in the Albany factory. The old baking ovens had been bricked over long ago, and the workforce reduced. So the building passed on, and the NBC bread factory moved up to Fuller Road. The stables and the office buildings at 75 Livingston were sold separately, and 251 North Pearl was sold to Albany Refrigeration, and in 1984 passed on to Gomez Electric Contractors. Decades passed fairly uneventfully until 2016, when Mr. Gomez retired and put the National Biscuit Building up for sale. Enter Capitol Repertory Theatre.
Capitol Repertory Theatre in Albany is looking for a new home. The theater has operated in a rented facility at 111 North Pearl Street for almost 4 decades, but has been in search of a space to call their own for more than 3 years. We have confirmation that the theater is buying the National Biscuit Building on the corner of Livingston and Pearl Streets. Theater leadership reports that the Arbor Hill location is in keeping with the theater's education work in local schools and its Neighbors for Neighbors community bridge building activities.
On inspection, there would be a lot of work to transform the warehouse space into a 300-seat theatre with a lobby, state-of-the-art theatrical technology, support spaces, rehearsal room, costume and prop construction shops. But the bones were there. In 2017, with generous gifts from the Capitol Rep Board of Trustees, the National Biscuit Building was purchased, and plans to build the new theatre and preserve Albany's historic legacy began. In 2019, the building was granted a place on the National Historic Registry, and that, my friends, provided a roadmap for a historic renovation to unlock the glory of Albany's manufacturing past, contained within the walls of 251 North Pearl Street. In October 2019, Mayor Kathy Sheehan announced the official beginning of construction to create a new Capitol Rep. The $13.5 million project was on. And whew, what a project it was. 13 timber posts were removed and replaced by steel girders to create the theater auditorium to house 300 seats with no obstructed views. Aha! Portions of the first floor were removed to maintain the consistent ceiling height of the theater auditorium and create a raked audience chamber. The original hardwood floors, timber posts, and wood ceilings in the lobby area were repaired and preserved. Special windows, frames, and shutters were built to recreate the originals. Remnants of the historic brick ovens were preserved in the basement. A new elevator and shaft were installed for access to all floors. All exterior doors were replaced, and the 1900s retail entrance replicated. The exterior brick facade was repaired and painted to reflect its historical past. Brand new plumbing, an electric service, a comprehensive sprinkler system, along with fire and security monitoring were added. State-of-the-art lighting, projection, and a matrix sound system were installed. Dressing room suites were created to meet all actors' union requirements. Costume and prop construction shops were outfitted. The Peg and Jim Miller Donor Lounge was built to welcome patrons. The Lauren and Harold Island Studio Theatre was created for rehearsals and flexible performances. The exterior awning was hung into place, and 2 digital marquees were installed to declare that the theatre had arrived. Phew! Now all this happened with a whole lot of help from the Albany Housing Authority, the New York State Homes and Community Renewal, the Rural and Urban Community Investment Fund, the Federal Historic Preservation Tax Incentives Program, along with generous corporate partners and hundreds of gifts from people who, well, love theatre. And boy, oh boy, together all these folks ensure that Capital Rep, nicknamed the Rep, is here to stay, creating great theatre for all, with a commitment to telling stories that need to be told, for all people, by all people, inspiring young minds with arts education programs, providing opportunities to learn the latest in entertainment technology, creating a welcoming community center for the people of Arbor Hill, building bridges throughout the capital region to make lives better by engaging the arts to reflect the best parts in ourselves. That's what the REP is all about.